Welcome everyone. Thank you, Carolina, NOMEX, and Music Expert Denmark for the invitation to Music Ally, of course, and my good friend Anthony, who is my neighbor as well. We live very close to each other here in Medellin. I'm originally from Bogota, but I moved to Medellin at the beginning of the year since I started working last year in Codiscos, and I moved to relocated to Medellin. It's very good to see some familiar faces here. Gerardo and Juanse here from Colombia as well, very good friends in the industry. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. As Anthony was telling you, I'm an A&R at Codiscos, which is, definitely the biggest label in Colombia. We have more than 35,000 phonographs out there in the market. We are a company with 90 employees working in different areas of the business. We have the label, we have the publisher, we have a film production crew, we have, of course, all the physical side of the business. We have promotion, marketing, etc. So what I'm going to try to do is give you a little bit of insight of our market and how things work, or I'm going to try to approach to the Colombian music industry market here. So I'm gonna start sharing my screen. Please give me a sign if you can see it. Looks good. Awesome, thank you. So let's start with, I'm going to give you a small summary of what I'm going to try to show here. So basically it's going to be an introduction on geographic, social, and cultural context of Colombia. So just probably most of you or some of you don't have an idea where Colombia is located or what happens here or who are the people who live here. So I'm going to try to give you an insight of that. I'm going to tell you about some music influences by regions after this context. I'm not going to go deep into that because I would get lost in a sea of musics that are made here in this country. So I'm going to give you just some insights on salsa and cumbias and reggaeton, of course, which is huge right now here in the country. I'm gonna tell you about the labels, publishers, distributors, and DSPs that have offices here in the country. So you have like a better view of what are the companies you can eventually work with and reach out. And of course, I'm gonna give you some data about the size, the market size of our recorded industry. I'm gonna talk briefly about live music, introducing you to some of our main festivals and some of the venues here. I know there's going to be a panel later with some experts on the subject, which are going to give you a better view of what I'm going to talk about briefly. I'm going to tell you about the two main PROs here in Colombia and what they do, which they are important in terms of you to get some revenue out of your music composition or neighboring rights, of course. And then I'm going to talk about the three main music conferences in the country, so which are very important spaces and activities for you to network and know better about the music market in the country. And then I'm gonna shoot some conclusions that I have in these terms. After that, we're gonna have a brief Q&A session and just throw everything you have there for me. So let's get started. So this beautiful picture is from Cartagena in the northern Colombian coast, but a beautiful city by the sea. Where are we located and who is the people that live here? What do we do? What do we like? And just so you have some context about why is it that Colombia has become like this very main hub for music industry, music production? Why is it like an obligated stop for touring here? And some of that context as well. So we are located at the northern part of South America. It's between these two seas, the Pacific and the Atlantic, and by the Caribbean Sea. We are neighboring with Panama, Ecuador, Brazil, and Venezuela. And these red dots you can see here are the main capitals of the country. Bogota being the biggest, and then Medellin, Cali, and Barranquilla by the sea. Um, the weather is very different here depending where you are. If you are high in the mountains, it's going to be a little bit colder. Not cold like that. I mean, it's going to be summer for you guys all the time here. So what we can do is like what we like here is we are, for example, if I live in Bogota, I can take a car and drive just 2 hours away. It's going to be hot, like absolutely summer weather, about 32 Celsius. If I want to go to a colder place, I'll just go back to Bogota or a little bit higher in the mountains. This is because we are located at basically on the equator, and we don't have any seasons like itself here. Like we have a rainy season, of course, or 2 or 3, it depends of the year. It could rain the whole year, but yeah, we don't have like these different changes of weathers like drastically as there's in other parts of the world, of course. So the weather is particular because of that geographical condition. So in terms of social, we have 50 million people living here in the country, according to the latest census. Only Bogota hosts 9 million people, and the metropolitan area could add another couple of million people going in and out of the city every day. Um, like in comparison to Medellin, which is the second biggest city, is going to be 2.5 million people living in the metropolitan area. And the towns neighboring Medellin could add another million people to the city. So imagine the size of Bogota, which is like a main big metropolis in which you can find, I mean, a lot of people from, basically it's the city that gets people from the rest of the country in. So there's not many people that are fully from Bogota right now living there. There's people from all over the country that are inhabitants in Bogota. 63% of the population in Colombia is between 15 and 65 years old, which means we are basically a young population, most of us like in our most active parts of our lives. And of course, this is very important for music consumption as well. This is where most of the people is going to be discovering music in those range of ages, specifically in the early part of their lives. The minimum wage is low here in Colombia. We are like a low income country. It's not like we are compared to our neighbors in the region. So we don't have like this very strong economy. That translates into the music market as well. It's not like people consumes or pays a lot for music, even though our market grows every year in terms of music consumption. It's been like challenging times in trying to make people to pay for music or to pay for music concerts, even though we do because there's a lot of people to do it. But yeah, so you can tell, you can say it's a very low income for the population here. So in terms of cultural, where do we come from? We are a blend, a magnificent blend of indigenous, African, and Spanish cultures. There's not been any bigger settlements of other types of cultures here in Colombia. When the Spanish came in, they found this big community of indigenous people, and then of course they brought in the African heritage people. So that blend has made us like very particular culture. It's not like in other countries in Latin America in which you could find there's heritage from other parts of Europe, for example. It didn't happen here. There was not a bigger settlements of other parts of the world. So in Colombia, we have different types of Spanish accents, and it's very difficult sometimes to understand them all. So as it happens with all the other countries as well. So it's not like we're talking a different Spanish, just like we add different types of words, but that translates into music as well. So every region has its own flavor in music. So it makes us very exciting. We are very fun, hardworking, and comparative people. We try to lend a hand to each other whenever we can, or whenever it's needed. And yeah, we have had difficult times throughout our history, but we are very resilient and we try to move forward every day. So I'm gonna tell you about some music influences. I don't want to, as I was telling you, I don't want to dig too deep in that because I would get lost in a sea of sounds and music. You'll have to see it for yourself. And if you get a short travel, arriving in Bogota and then going to the Pacific coast and going to the northern coast and then going to the eastern plains in Colombia, you'll find a lot of different sounds, musics all around the country. So I'm going to tell you about history, a little bit of some of them. So it is said Colombia is the country of 1,000 rhythms. And yeah, if you get one, you get a lot of sounds from just one rhythm. Just to to make it an example, cumbia was born in the northern coast mountains. It's a blend from African and indigenous music. The Africans put their drums into it, and the indigenous put the flutes into it, and it started blending and creating the sound. Um, so after that, the accordion came in, and the accordion gave it a different type of approach to music to the composers, and it was still like this music that only like the poor people would listen to in their parties and in their towns, whatever. But then some arrangers and composers from the northern coast, as Lucho Bermudez or Pacho Galán, they started doing arrangements, taking those elements of the music and putting them into big band formats. So they gave them this status to the music, so they could start playing that into ballrooms and those places that the music was not allowed at first. That was basically part of the beginning of the 20th century. And after that, cumbia just, exploded in the region. You can listen cumbias from Mexico, you can listen to cumbias from Chile, from Argentina, from Peru, and but it was all born here. So from that, you can tell how influential and important Colombian cumbia is. There's another very important rhythm and music in Colombia, which is called vallenato, which comes from cumbia as well, in a very similar format as the one that was made at the beginning. But then vallenato is basically the most popular music in Colombia, or the music that we consume the most, let's say. So moving from that coast to the other one, to the Pacific coast, we have like Afro-Colombian music, which has a lot of rhythms. I'm just naming a few here: currulados, bundes, chirimías, aguabajos. There's a lot of sounds that come from, depending on the format. For example, chirimía has two clarinets, a snare drum, a hi-hat on their hands, the sound of their voices, and it's very festive. It's very fun music to listen and to dance to. But then if you move down south on the coast of the Pacific, you get to Timbiquí, for example, which is a town in which this Pacific or this African heritage music, you can sense it all the time. You can listen to sounds and songs that are, for example, mourning a death, and or celebrating the birth of a child, or this type of themes on the songs that could either be like very sad or even very festive. I'm putting some references here. I forgot to mention the ones from cumbia, but you can listen to Gaiteros de San Jacinto, Andrés Lantero, Carmelo Torres, or Lucho Bermudez, just to name a few, of course, these are probably the ones that you could reference easier. As well as what happened in cumbias, salsa, when salsa came in from Cuba and all the Caribbean and everything, at a point there was composers that took that salsa and started blending it with the Colombian Pacific music. And probably our most important salsa composer, which was Jairo Varela from Chocó, actually one of the departments in the Pacific, started blending and created this sound of salsa, which made him like the best of the salsa composers. So yeah, if you want to listen to some of that, I totally recommend Grupo Nietzsche, which, as a matter of fact, Codiscos was the label that made and recorded most of his music, and owns the catalog of that of Grupo Nietzsche at the time still. Canalón de Timbiquí, which you can listen to these marimba sounds I was telling you about, as well as Herencia de Timbiquí, which has those elements, but they blended and made fusions with rock music, funk music, hip hop music. Cali Flow, which is another evolution of that type of salsa, which is basically as a faster paced dance. You know, salsa is dance music. You have to go to Cali, and if you go to Cali, you have to dance salsa. So that's basically the world capital of salsa. If you go there, you have to dance to it. So there's different types of salsa you can dance to. So the Pacifican Power, which is there's like a super group of figures of artists and performers from the Pacific Coast, and then this guy Churchman, who owns or who took Afrobeats from the sound that is being made in Africa with urban Afrobeats music, and is blending it with Pacific music. So yeah, you can consider Medellin as the most active city in terms of Latin urban music production right now, and that has like a very straightforward explanation. Medellin has been a hub for hip hop like for too long, and there's a lot of very good hip hop performers here in the city. So when hip hop and Puerto Rican reggaeton met, they started creating one of the best sounds and beats that the industry started adopting. As a matter of fact, some of the biggest names in the industry are from Medellin, as in J Balvin, Raycon, Maluma, Karol G. Those guys come from here and are part of this evolution of sounds. So yeah, you can hear very good hip hop and side of very good reggaeton here in Medellin. So there's just a few to name: Alcolíricos, Crudo, Minch Row, Kaplan Miki, Doble Porción, Bless, and Ryan Castro. These are like new generation artists that you can listen to. I'm just naming a few. I would like not to leave a lot of artists here outside, but it's so big. It's just so big, our music here, that you'll have to start digging deeper into it. So yeah, I'm gonna move forward in the presentation. So let's start talking about recorded music. I'm gonna name some labels, publishers, distributors, but to start, I'm gonna show you some numbers that have been recently published by the IFPI on their latest report. So it says Colombia ranks 38 in the world in terms of their music market, recorded music market. The market size is $43.8 million in terms of sales, music sales. Just to give you some reference, Chile, which is the third music market, Colombia is the fourth, after of course Brazil and Mexico. Chile is the 32nd and Colombia is 38th. So we still have like this gap between us and them, even though Chile is a lot smaller country in terms of population. We could if we could make our industry or our local consumption of music make bigger, we could reach Chile's numbers easily. But it seems to be growing still. Like streaming growth is still a thing, like 26% of people paying for streaming services and for ad-supported services. And physical growth, it's a very particular one. In 2020, it grew 48%, being vinyl only 26% of growth. I can tell you that we do have an online store of vinyl, and we're selling vinyl a lot. And we're also selling players, vinyl players, and people is like demanding a lot of these physical formats here. So let's talk about the labels. I'm gonna give you some names that people or companies that are present here in our country. Of course, the major labels, they are actively working their artists and catalog here, but they are also signing artists to develop in this country. So as in Sony Music, Universal, and Warner Music. We have the big independents, as ourselves being the biggest one. Discos Fuentes, who owns like a very important catalog as well, from salsa, cumbias, all this type of music. And Entretenimiento of FM Entertainment, who owns recently bought a big catalog of Colombian music as well. So you have the small independent labels, as in Pollen Records, which was the label that first developed acts as Bomba Stereo and Chuck It Down and Me Too, being once around. I know he's going to be happy about this one. Tambora Records, Sonidos Enraizados, all those guys working with more traditional folk sounds from the regions. Incorrecto is a label from Bogota working with punk, post-punk, and different types of rock music from the capital, from Bogota. Capital Records, Habit Records, and 574 from Medellin, developing very interesting acts of urban Latin music and hip hop. As in publishers, of course, the majors have their own offices as well here, and they are actively searching for catalog and composers as well. They do sign producers and composers, Sony Music, Sony Publishing, Universal Music Publishing, and Warner Chappell. We as big independents and as well, Pure Music, of course, Codiscos, Fuentes de Música, and FM Entertainment. We at Codiscos try to sign as well composers. We are the only ones that are doing this in terms of independent, apart from Pure Music, of course. And there's small independents that like Eddie's Dagon and Star Artists, which own and hold small catalogs, but they don't develop composers or producers. As for the digital distributors, there's a lot of them here. There's this particular situation about, of course, as I told you, on the geographic position of Colombia, it's very easy for these companies to have control or have a very important position in terms of traveling fast and easy to the Caribbean, Central America, and South America. So after the crisis in Venezuela, where was most of the industry located, all of them or most of them moved to Bogota and Medellin. So you can have these major label owned, these independent distributors, for example, like ADA, they own that, The Orchard, and in groups as in Warner Music and Universal Music. The big independents, of course, as in Warner PM, Believe, Symphonic Distribution, Altafonte, Sing Music, City Baby, and Tito. And the small independents, which are Colombian companies working with a third-party distributor, as in Diseti, La Música, Dinastía, and YT Record. These last three from Medellin, the very first one is from Cali. So these guys, you know, if there's this many distributors working with independent music here, you can tell that there's a lot of music happening and there's a lot of people trying to sell music, and there's labels all the day, every day, signing acts, and these guys are working hard to get clients one by one. So just to mention that these guys in the DSPs, they are actually actively working here in Colombia. They have either offices, not after the pandemic, of course, they closed it after offices, but they have teams on the ground. The guys at Spotify, they have a team of 5 or 6 people here. The guys at Deezer have 2 people here. Amazon Music just recently set up a team here in Colombia. YouTube has been here for a while. Claro Música, which is the company of Telco called Claro, they have their own streaming service, which is free to their users. Huawei Music, the Chinese phone manufacturer, They have their own streaming service as well. They have offices in Colombia. And just to mention that these are not DSPs, of course, but these guys are very involved in music. TikTok and Triller, they do have people here in the country actively working to do campaigns with artists and labels. So live music, let's talk about that for a while. So I just want to name a few festivals. I think that they are the most important ones. Don't want to, I wouldn't like to leave the rest of them out, but just want to name the biggest ones. And I'm gonna name just some venues that are like important for live music here. So public festivals. These public festivals mean that are funded, fully funded by the government or the mayor's offices, cities in each one of those cities. These public festivals are free attendance, free admittance. I'm sorry. You don't have to pay a ticket to get to them. Rock al Parque being the biggest. It's been like 21 years, I think. Rock al Parque has been active. There's it's a 3-day festival in which you can find a range of different types of music. There's one day dedicated only to metal music. There's one day dedicated to alternative, like let's say reggae, ska, all those different sounds. And there's one day in which you can find a lot of all different type of acts. But it's, let's say it's rock, but there's a lot of music happening in those stages for 3 days. So it's a very, very big festival and a very important one to us. There's the Music from the Pacific Coast Festival, Petronio Alvarez, which is a celebration of the African heritage in the Pacific Coast. It's 5 days and 120,000 people go there on those days. And you won't only find music there, you're gonna find food, you're gonna find clothing, you're gonna find hairdressing, a lot of elements that are part of the Colombian, Pacific Colombian Afro heritage. So it's a very beautiful festival to attend to. It happens in Cali during the month of August. Jazz al Parque, as similar to Rock al Parque, not as big perhaps, but it's as well. It's in a park, of course, and it hosts 80,000 people during the 2 days of festival. Altavoz Medellin, which is a very, let's say, it's like a very alternative festival in terms of their programming. You have a lot of punk and a lot of hip hop, and then you'll have a lot of metal and a lot of different types of music that people in the city in particular, they like to listen to. And there's Festival of Leyenda Vallenato, the Vallenato Legend Festival in Valledupar, which is the capital where Vallenato was born. And of course, that region is important for that music that is basically, as I was telling you, the most consumed locally, the most popular music. That festival just happened. It takes place in September normally. Some private festivals you'll find here. The most important being, of course, this one, Stereo Picnic, owned and produced by these guys at Paramo, which is the joint venture of 2 companies that used to be independent producers of shows and concerts. There's huge acts. They've just announced their lineup for next year. It's going to be Foo Fighters, J Balvin, and I don't know the rest of the lineup. I forgot about it, but I've seen huge acts as LCD Sound System, Florence and the Machine, The Killers, that type of names you can find on that festival. So it's like huge. It's quite expensive too for us to buy a ticket to go there. I can tell in euros, but it would be like $150 per day of attendance, perhaps, if you want to go to that festival. So it's not cheap. You will have to buy a very expensive ticket. So this Baum Festival, I don't know, it's still happening, but before the pandemic, it was like the main electronic music, as well as Sonar, the one that is in Barcelona. There's a version in Bogota as well. There's probably the most important electronic music festivals happening there. La Solar, happening here in Medellin, produced by a company called the Breakfast Club, where you can find reggaeton, urban, electronic music, and their programming. And the Jamming Festival, which is a festival that has been happening for a while now, which happens in a small town, like couple of hours outside Bogota, in a place that is already hot. In the water is already hot, so it's very festive. It's like dance hall, hip hop, reggae, electronic, reggaeton, all that type of music. So this being, I think, the biggest festivals, private festivals. So I'm going to mention some of the venues just to say that these venues I'm naming here, these are like, yeah, not huge. Whenever there's a huge concert happening, most of the times what they do is they use either a big park as the one that is where Rock al Parque is made, or the stadiums, the football stadiums. But these are fully, these venues are for music, so they don't have to adapt it to anything. So they're not for football, they are for music. So Movistar Arena in Bogota being the biggest, I think Gabriel from Movistar Arena is going to be on a panel later today. He's going to tell you a bit more about it. It's 14,000 seats capacity. La Macarena in Medellin, which used to be a bullfighting arena, and the city owns that place, and there's a private company operating. There's no more bullfighting there. There's only music and just for the city to make different type of live acts. Teatro Colón in Bogota, which is probably the most beautiful venue, small theater in the center of the city. It was founded in 1892. So you can see all the art that's inside of there. It's a small one. I actually saw a concert a couple of years ago there, from Quinteto hasta Piazzolla from Argentina, playing Piazzolla music with no sound reinforcement. And the sound of that city is like, of that place is beautiful. The Teatro Metropolitano in Medellin, which is a little bit bigger than Colón, but it's a beautiful city as well, a beautiful theater as well. And Teatro Municipal in Cali, which is a 1,039 seats in a very beautiful old type of concert hall. I don't know if the time is good.
Yeah, we're 5:40, so I think we have like maybe 10-ish more minutes.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So let's talk about those PROs I was telling you about. Of course, if you want to play a show, you have to get a permit from these guys in terms of who's performing, whose musical works are playing, of course, and they're going to, of course, charge the concert promoter for that and allegedly pay to the composers that play that music. So it was founded in 1946. They are part of CSEX, so they have these agreements in between all the others CMOs around the world. So they should pay whatever music is happening outside, but they have to pay to the composers from outside those other societies registered to them. They claim to have an annual revenue in 2019 of $30 million. This, of course, had to, I'm pretty sure they have a very bad year last year due to the pandemic because of course, no shows and no public performance. But yeah, this is like very decent in terms of revenue and collection of rights of the composers and authors. And there's this other one called ASIMPRO, which is the Colombian Society for Performers and Phonographic Producers. We do have a neighboring rights society here. Yes, it happens as in, I think other parts, like I think Spain has one as well. I'm not sure where the rest of them are. But if you are a performer and you register your work with them, the phonographs, you can get money from public performance as well. And of course, if you are a phonographic producer as in a label, you can get you have to get paid from them for the use of music in radio, television, and broadcasting. They claim to have an annual revenue of 7.5 million last year, which was basically half of what they were doing in 2019. Of course, same thing as in for the pandemic, because of the pandemic. And yeah, you have to be Colombian or have a Colombian company registered here if you want to get your money collected by them. So finally, there's yeah, music conferences. I'm gonna name a few of them, just three of them, so you get a grasp of these events that happen in the city every year, in the cities every year. So you eventually, if you want to come and do some networking with the people that is working actively in the industry here. So I think the most important one will be the Bogota Music Market, which was created and it's operated by the Bogota Chamber of Commerce. And it's an initiative that the Chamber of Commerce had to make the industry, our industry, specifically the industry in Bogota, stronger, to have like a voice and participation from different actors in the city in terms of music industry. It happens in September normally, either the first or second week of September. Then there's Circulart, which is privately owned by a company named Red Lat, and is co-funded by the Ministry of Culture and other state and city agencies. The focus of the music is a little bit more world music, as if that is a thing, which is too broad, but yeah, you can have like rock music and folk music and different types of musics there. It normally happens at the beginning of November, right after NOMEX, because it used to be like part of the NOMEX tour of conferences. It happened just recently on September. And Mercado Musical del Pacífico, or the Pacific Music Market, that happens in Cali, which is focused on music from the Pacific Coast. And it does accept acts or music that come from other countries in the Pacific Coast, in Latin America. Either if you're Mexican and you live in the coast, you can, in the Pacific Coast, you can propose your music to be considered for showcases and one-on-one meetings there. I think there's more. I just recently attended to one in Medellin as well, called the Medellin Music Week. It just getting started, so I don't know if they're gonna last. But those guys do a pretty decent work to try to show their music from here as well. So yeah, with this beautiful view from Monserrate in Bogota, which is high up in the mountain, you can see the whole city from there. I'm gonna throw in some conclusions about how I think the market is happening and what is coming. So I think, as it has ever happened, the music production is still on the rise, and I think it's gonna keep rising. So you can have a lot of people from abroad coming here to Medellin, to Bogota, to the northern coast to create music, because we have a lot of studios, very good producers, a lot of infrastructure that allows people to make very good music, actually music that is, I mean, charting everywhere. So yeah, that's gonna still be a thing. I think as if we do a very harder work in terms of making people consume more local music, we have a lot of room to improvement and growth, and trying to reach Chile's numbers sometime soon. I think as if the government still put money on the market and put money on the music industry, and innovation can come into the market as well, as in different companies and startups that have different alternatives of music funding. We could get there to Chile's levels very soon. Live music's comeback is looking very, very strong. There's been most of the festivals, and the most important festivals have already announce lineups for next year. So that's very good for the industry and for music and for artist development, of course. So that's a very good thing. And yeah, vinyl is a thing, definitely. It's not like anymore like a trend. Yeah, basically, it's back. So like pressing vinyl and trying to sell them in this market and all the other markets, I think it's important for the industry. So I think that's it from my side. Yeah, thank you again, Carolina, Anthony, and everyone at NOMEX and Musical Life for the invitation. Just feel free to shoot emails or, yep, there's my number there if you want to reach out as well.
No, thank you so much, César. That was a really nice presentation. It made me miss home a lot.
You have to come back.
Thanks a lot for that. If people have questions, can you maybe stop sharing screen?
Yep.
We can get an overview and see if
absolutely,
if people have specific questions they would like to ask you. Anyone? Maybe not yet, but I wanted to ask you something actually. Can you talk a little bit about the media landscape? Because we didn't touch so much on that. Like, again, it's such a big country, right? The numbers are huge. Bogota alone, 9 million people. How do you think people are actually discovering music? Music
discovery is being done through digital platforms. I mean, the use of YouTube here is huge. Not as the penetration of digital service providers is gonna get bigger as well. But music consumption discovery comes from digital. It's not like, unfortunately, radio is not like a place you can discover music because it's only mainstream acts that are playing there, as well as in TV. There's not like an interest for mainstream media to showcase like music. You know, it's like there's no interest at all. So media is important if you have like you are in a scale on your career in which you want to reach probably new audiences or people is talking about you, but definitely social media and digital services are the ones that are going to give you like an exposure in new audiences.
Thanks so much. I see Torsten has his hand up.
Hey, César, nice to meet you. And
nice to meet you, Torsten.
Presentation, super interesting.
Thank you.
I work as a digital distributor and a publisher as well. And we work with an artist called Karen Mendes. And all of a sudden, we realized that on our YouTube videos in Latin America, there's a company called Latin Authors. Claiming, you're smiling now. Can you tell a bit about exactly what Latin Authors is? Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not too sure why Latin Author does that. I mean, I think that's what they did is I don't know if they made deals with the publishing associations in different countries. For example, here in Colombia, the publishing association is called ACODEM, which is basically what holds all the publishers. And I don't know why they gave them like some type of power to claim rights that don't belong necessarily to them. So yeah, that's like super difficult subject here because you are not the only one that's happening that. Like, yeah, I don't know where those guys came actually.
That's interesting that you don't know that.
I have no idea where it's.
Okay.
But of course I've heard of them and yes. I know they are doing it, but I just don't know where they are located. And it's like, because sometimes you go to a publisher and say, hey, I want to use this. Go to Latin Author to do that. It's like, okay, where are they or who are they? Nobody knows them.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Gerardo,
yeah. Hey, everyone. I just wanted to ask César and maybe everyone in this conversation, what's your opinion or what do you think about what is necessary in order to increase local music consumption. I think as a Colombian, and maybe I'm wrong, I feel that our culture is more of a, how do you call it? Like like a party music, dancing music, right? But in terms of all kind of music genres, like alternative music or more, I don't know, like lo-fi or softer kind of music genres. What do you think is necessary in order to increase local in Colombia, like local music consumption?
Yeah, that's the $1 million question, right? Yeah, from my perspective, there has to be a lot of more of support in terms of course, media, as we were talking about. Like, media only focus on mainstream acts, so there's not many channels, as in radio, press, or TV, that are talking about different types of music. So if people start seeing that there's a lot of different music, because people doesn't even know there's a lot of different music, and that we produce and have such a great amount of different music that is not only consumed mainstream. I think it's a matter of awareness, of course. And yeah, that's also one of the very difficult things of this modern music market. Everybody's like throwing a lot of music there and just trying to see if anything sticks around. So I think if we can get this, I don't know, triangle of the government, private companies, and the music industry work together to try to push different type of acts outside, which at a time has happened. I think that would be a better way for people to discover these different types of music.
Can I ask something to that though? Because like, from the time I used to live in Colombia, I mean, crossing from one side of Bogota to the next could take you 3 hours, which is what it takes me to go from Copenhagen to Aarhus in like the peninsula. So I remember we listened to music all the time. So is it a matter of just transforming that piracy into paying? And how is technology potentially being part of that, or not being part of that at all?
How do you listen to the music? It was the radio, or somebody? Did you buy CDs, or how?
Yeah, I mean, in Colombia, I used to buy CDs, but I moved when I was 21, and I'm 42. So you guys do the math. It's been a while. But
no, I think, like, listen. For example, if you can see it on, you can have an evolution for that. Sometimes you used to sit at like a, how do you call it, at the end, a store in the corner of your house to have a beer with your friends, and the music used to play from I don't know, an USB with 1,000 songs on it. So the guy just plugged that thing in, and the music just started flowing. Nobody even would know what was playing, right? So now they have like this type of rocolas, like they play music with from YouTube, and they're not even paying anything for it. I don't know. It's a matter of culture, of course, but there's a matter of I think enforcement of some type of music channels that people needs to understand better when they're using it. But I think that's like too difficult to change. I mean, people's not paying for music because they don't even think that they have to pay for it, or they think they're actually not paying for it by watching YouTube videos. They think it's free, but it is not.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Do you think technology is going to change that? Because I mean, we are a very car-heavy country, right? As in a lot, so many cars, and the cars are getting modern, and the technology in the car is changing. So if you are going to be like using your Spotify and so on and so forth, is that going to maybe be the way to like potentially crank things up a bit to kind of hold people hostage to actually start paying for music?
Yeah, first of all, we are, as I was telling you, our income is super low. Like it's very low income. So if the average people is spending music, for example, in the United States is $20. Colombia doesn't even reach $2 or $3 for that. and that's the people that's paying for it. So if people has to pay for music, they are paying it for a very like super important reason. So it's not like everyone. It's very difficult to make people pay for music. Actually, before the pandemic, people didn't even I don't know, trust online transactions, for example. So people didn't like paying with their cards on online and apps, you know. So they had to, because they didn't want, they couldn't go out of their houses, so they had to start paying that way. So probably that confidence on those transactions type of things started changing. But in terms of spending, it's going to take a lot more than that. And I think, yeah, technology has to do its part, but I think there's a lot of more actors that have to come in there.
And thanks so much, everyone, for your time, and especially you, César. That was a beautiful presentation, and it was really nice to hear. So thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
You guys have a good day.